This is an extract from the Leader Coronavirus Daily podcast by the Evening Standard and hosted by me, David Marsland. To hear the whole thing, search for it on your podcast provider.
If we don't do this, there will be nothing left to save.
Just 1 month ago, the No Time to Die trailer promised James Bond would return to save the world this November. Cinema bosses hoped that meant them too, but he's going to be late. As a result, the huge Cineworld chain has decided to shut its theatres in the UK and US temporarily, with 45,000 staff affected. With me now is Jack Shepherd from Total Film magazine. Jack, did James Bond just kill cinema?
It's a hard one because Eon, who are releasing this movie, they don't release many movies. If Bond's going to come out, they need it to make, over $1 billion, really. Skyfall, Spectre, they both made over $1 billion. The budget on this is $250 million. People have been saying this, quote unquote, take a hit, with this movie. But cinemas do need a draw. They need a movie that everyone's going to be talking about and everyone's going to recommend to someone. Bond is one of those films that does that. Everyone and their grandmas goes to see the new Bond film, especially here in the UK. We love it. Daniel Craig's, it's his final Bond film. It's the big one. We all want to go see it. I'm desperate to see this film. We had it on the cover of Total Film earlier this year. We were all so ready for it to come out. We had people on set. It was just going to hopefully be phenomenal. And it will be a huge draw. Earlier this year, we had Tenet come out, the Christopher Nolan movie. Christopher Nolan's a big draw in himself. Dunkirk, Interstellar, Inception, they're all phenomenal films. But the problem is it's not quite Bond. Tenet isn't a new Bond film. A new Bond film is, it's huge. It's going to top the box office this year, whenever it comes out. Now that that's gone, the reasons to go to the cinema have become fleeting. Once people and the people who are interested in seeing Tenet have gone to see it, then that's kind of done, and it's not going to expand that much. Word of mouth with that film has been quite mixed. Studios are looking at that movie and thinking, well, if that didn't make normal Chris Nolan numbers, then we don't want to risk not making normal Bond numbers. It's hard because you can understand why Eon did that, but you also just need a movie to come out, and you need one of the studios to put out something big. There were other opportunities. There could have been Black Widow, which could have come out through Disney, the Marvel film, but they delayed that. They got scared. They got worried. There was Wonder Woman that's been pushed to Christmas. There were supposed to be big films out now, so it's not just Bond. So, it's about getting people out. People have been suggesting a watch out to help out scheme. Do you do that for cinemas to get them going again? Boris Johnson has urged people today to go back to the cinemas. That's not enough, really. You need some sort of incentive. You need to give people a reason to go back. Bond was a reason. Now it's gone. It's going to really affect cinemas. They will come back in the long run. But in the meantime, you've got, as you said, thousands of people without jobs. And it's just going to be difficult.
I kind of feel for Daniel Craig a little bit because he's been trying to get out of being Bond for quite a while, and it looks like he's going to be stuck there for a lot longer than planned. But looking ahead, if the new Bond film comes out as now replanned for next year, the other blockbusters that you've mentioned, I'm looking forward to the new Ghostbusters that's supposed to be coming out in March. If those do come out, is it possible that 2021 could be the best year for cinema ever, and that'll be the reason alone that people go back?
It's an interesting idea. I'd like to think so. I really, really hope so. With studios still pushing stuff back, there's going to be a hangover of people who don't want to go back. You need to break that barrier down first. And it's like with restaurants, you go once, you kind of break the seal and you think, oh, it's okay to go back again. With cinema, it will be the same. You go back to a cinema, you see how safe it is, how, all the precautions that are in place, and then you feel comfortable going back. Is that going to happen before next year? I really hope so. Dune's coming out in December. That could be the big film to, get people going back again. But cinemas need to be there. All the cinemas can't have closed down in the meantime. There's not an extended furlough scheme at the moment to keep these workers in place. They're being asked by Cineworld, we'd like you to come back eventually. What are they supposed to do in the meantime to pay rent? They're not going to be there. You need that support system along the way. This is why I don't really blame Eon or any of these studios, because they're making, financial moves that realistically make sense to them. Really, it's on the government. They haven't provided help like they have other industries. This all comes down to the government really not helping out as much as they should have done to an industry that is now, it is on the edge. Hopefully next year will be amazing. But also, there are movies now that are coming out. This Friday, there's a movie called Saint Maud. It's a horror movie released by Studio Canal. It's really fun horror movie. If you're into it, go see it, because there are still going to be cinemas running that are showing it. I just got an email through saying they're still releasing that movie. They're pushing ahead with it. Hopefully people will go out again. But yeah, next year it'll be a chaos of big movies. Which should be really fun, and hopefully, fingers crossed for cinemas in the meantime, and hopefully they get the support they need.
But Jack, what about watching movies at home? Everyone's got big screens now. Loads of people have surround sound systems. You can bring in your own popcorn, have your mates around. Disney seemed to have some success when they released Onward originally as a kind of add-on to Disney Plus, when you could sort of purchase it. Is that the future of cinema?
It's an interesting question, because obviously Netflix and Disney Plus, and in the States they've launched HBO Max and all these streaming services that they're putting movies onto now, and they have done very, very well out of the pandemic. Everyone's logging onto streaming. Movies have adapted already for streaming. You've got the big blockbusters, the Marvel movies, that kind of stuff. They all have these huge CGI explosions. Budgets have gone way up. But also profits have gone up for those movies. Now, it will be interesting to see later this month, in November, how Soul does at cinemas. It's a Pixar film, but it's not Toy Story. It's not Toy Story 5. It's not one of the big hitters. Will it do well? It will be interesting to see. And I think that will be, a sign of whether perhaps Bond should have come out from a financial perspective. But also, Soul obviously isn't big enough to keep Cineworld open. Without cinemas open, how are you going to go see that movie? That's the question. And so, really, it's all a juggling act. You need cinemas open for people to go see movies in the cinema, but you need movies to get people in the cinemas. Where's that line going to be drawn of we need to release a movie just to keep it open? Worst case scenario, someone like Disney ends up buying all the cinema chains and then only releasing Disney films. That's quite a terrifying idea. Are we just going to be seeing Disneys for the rest of our time? I hope not. I hope cinemas can survive the way they are. Fingers crossed for the future.
Search for the Leader Coronavirus Daily on any podcast provider to hear more from the podcast.